Before my 80th birthday, I always thought I was the lucky one. Life had handed me everything: wealth, adoration, and a place at the top of a thriving family business. My parents doted on me as their only child, and I was content. I married Jason, a boy they sponsored and raised as a part of our family. It was the perfect love story. No challenges, no setbacks, just a smooth, blissful ride into adulthood. But everything changed when I turned 80. That day, I was wheeled onto the rooftop by the two people I trusted the most: my husband, Jason, and the daughter I adopted, Sophie. I didn't see it coming. I never saw it coming. They told me it was for the young woman I had sponsored years ago, a girl named Rachel, who had once been pregnant and lost everything because of me. Jason's voice echoed in my ears like a distant nightmare. If it weren't for you, I would have been with Rachel. I've been holding this in for years. You ruined her life, and now it's your turn. My head spun. I couldn't process it. What was happening? Sophie, my own daughter, stood silently beside him, her eyes cold as stone. You're not my mother, she spat. You killed my real mother. You refused to help her when she needed it. Now you're going to pay. I felt the blood drain from my face. The woman I had once thought of as my own daughter was now a stranger. A voice of contempt. How could this be happening? Had I raised her wrong? Had I been so blind? Jason's laughter cut through my thoughts. Sophie is my daughter, not yours. She's Rachel's daughter, not yours. You never wanted children. Now everything you have will belong to Rachel's daughter. You'll die alone, forgotten, and no one will remember you. Then it hit me 2 days ago. Jason had convinced me to sign a new will. I thought I was doing the right thing, making sure Sophie was taken care of after my death. I didn't know it would come back to haunt me like this. Before I could even fight back, Jason and Sophie pushed me over the edge. The pain was instant. I died in that moment, betrayed by the people I trusted most. My body was discarded into a drainage ditch. My parents' graves were dug up and desecrated, all in the name of vengeance. But something strange happened. I woke up again, reborn, back in my high school body. The memories of my life, all the mistakes, the betrayal, the heartbreak, they flooded me all at once. I was back in time, with the chance to fix everything. My parents' worried voices echoed through the phone. Are you being bullied, dear? Tell us if anyone's hurting you. Their concern was the sharpest sting. I had failed them, betrayed them in the worst way. In my last life, they had been devastated after my death, unable to understand why. I had let myself be so blind. Now, I couldn't let them suffer like that again. I'm fine, I told them, my voice shaking. But I want you to stop supporting Jason and Rachel. Cut them off. They hesitated. Are you sure? I'm sure. I'll handle it. The weight of those words was heavy in my chest, but I felt something change inside me. This time I would be different. I would stand strong. I would make sure nothing like this happened again. I had the power to rewrite my future, and I wouldn't waste it. It was after school when I saw her again, Rachel, the girl who had manipulated me in my past life. This time, I wasn't the same. I knew her game. She approached me, her school uniform a little too tight around her swelling belly. Her eyes were filled with tears, but I wasn't buying it this time. She had a plan, and I wasn't going to play along. Samantha, please, I need to talk to you. Can we go somewhere private? Her voice was soft, desperate. No, not this time. Why? Don't you say what you need to say right here? I replied, my voice firm. I wasn't going to give her any chance to manipulate me into something I didn't want. The people around us began to whisper. Rachel's act was failing. The pitiful expression she wore didn't fool anyone. You're embarrassing yourself, I added, crossing my arms. She dropped to her knees, clutching at my clothes, tears streaming down her face. Please, I'm begging you, Samantha. I need help. My blood boiled. I raised my voice. Someone, get the teacher. This girl's trying to frame me. The crowd around us began murmuring. They were seeing through her act. Rachel's face paled as she realized that no one was buying her story. Why don't you just tell us what you want, Rachel? I asked, my tone cutting. Don't waste everyone's time. She hesitated, eyes darting nervously. Finally, she muttered, I need money, a few $100,000. I can't raise the baby without it. The crowd gasped. Rachel, the once praised student, had fallen this low. I almost laughed. In my past life, I would have been a fool to give her anything. But now, I was done with her manipulation. No, I said flatly. Why should I give you my money? Rachel's eyes flashed with anger. Because you can. You're rich. A few $100,000 is nothing to you. The absurdity of her demand left me speechless for a moment. You want me to give you money because you got pregnant? I snapped. You think I owe you something for your mistake? The crowd was growing more uncomfortable. Rachel's pitiful act wasn't working anymore. No, Rachel, I won't help you, I said. You made your bed. Now lie in it. Just as I turned to walk away, I heard a voice behind me. Samantha. It was Jason. He stepped forward, looking like he was ready to fight. How can you be so cruel? She's just a girl in trouble. I turned, meeting his gaze without flinching. And you're just a man who's too weak to take responsibility for your own actions, I said, my voice colder than I intended. Jason's eyes narrowed. You think I need your help, don't you? You're wrong. I know you. I shot back. I know you're desperate to get back into my life, but it's over, Jason. You're nothing to me now. Jason's face twisted with anger. You can't do this. You owe me. You always have. I didn't even flinch. You should have thought about that before you pushed me off that rooftop in my last life. His eyes widened in shock, but before he could say anything, a teacher arrived, and Jason and Rachel were taken away. The confrontation left me shaken, but I wasn't going to back down. I had the power now, and I wasn't going to let them destroy me again. I couldn't help but think about how much had changed since I was reborn. In my last life, I had been so naive, so willing to give to people who only took from me. This time, I would be smarter, stronger, and I would never allow myself to be manipulated again. But there was still so much left to do. I had to make sure my future, my real future, was secure. No one would take it from me again. The next day at school, I could feel the tension in the air. Word had spread fast about Rachel's public breakdown, and the whispers never stopped. I was fine with that. Let them talk. It didn't matter. What mattered was that Rachel and Jason had overplayed their hands. They thought they could use me, but now the tables had turned, and I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Rachel, predictably, tried to apologize the next morning, showing up at my desk with a fake smile plastered across her face. Samantha, I'm so sorry, she said, her voice laced with fox sincerity. I didn't mean to cause a scene. I was just overwhelmed. Please, can we talk? I didn't even look up from my notebook. I could hear the desperation in her voice, but there was nothing left for her to take from me. Talk about what? I replied, not bothering to glance her way. What more is there to say? She hesitated, then continued. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have acted like that. I was hoping you would understand, but I see now I was wrong. I felt a sharp laugh bubble up inside me, but I swallowed it down. I had to be calm, composed. I had the power now, and that felt strangely good. No, Rachel, you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. You've always been manipulative. You always will be, and I'm done playing your game. Her face flushed with embarrassment, but she didn't back off. I just need some money, Samantha. You're the only one who can help me. If you don't, I won't have anything left. Please, I'm begging you. That same feeling of anger flared inside me. How dare she? After everything, she still thought I was some fool who would give her what she wanted. My eyes finally met hers, cold and unflinching. The money you're begging for isn't yours to have. Not anymore. You never appreciated anything I gave. You never will. Rachel's lips trembled, but she said nothing more. She turned and walked away, defeated. Good. Let her feel what it was like to be powerless for once. But as she left, my heart twisted. I couldn't forget that in my last life, I had believed I was doing the right thing by helping her, by giving her money, but it never stopped. It only made her worse. In the end, she had manipulated me into giving everything away, and all it had cost me was my life. This time, I wouldn't let that happen. Later that day, I caught Jason outside the school gates. He had been watching me from afar, as if he still thought there was a chance to get back into my life, as if I could forgive him for what he had done. But I was no longer the naive girl I had once been. This time, I wasn't interested in his apologies or his excuses. He approached me with that smug look he always wore, the one that made me feel like I owed him something. Samantha, we need to talk, he said. I know I messed up, but I'm still your husband. We can work things out. I raised an eyebrow, feeling the anger rise up in my chest. Work things out? What? You think just because you've played the victim that I'm going to take you back? Do you really think I'm that stupid? He paused, momentarily taken aback by my bluntness. No, I'm not asking for your forgiveness, but we could at least start over, for Sophie's sake. She's your daughter after all. I laughed bitterly. Sophie is my daughter now. She's been my daughter for years, and you're nothing to me anymore. Jason's face twisted with frustration. You can't do this, Samantha. You can't just shut me out. You owe me. You owe Sophie. After everything I've done for you, you just want to cut me off? I don't owe you anything, I said, my voice steady. You took everything from me, Jason. You pushed me off that roof. You killed me, and I let you. But not anymore. I'm not the same person I was before. I'm done with you, and I'm done with Rachel. You've both ruined much already. Jason's eyes darkened with rage, but I didn't care. The person standing in front of me was no longer the man I had once loved. He was a shadow, a memory of the past I couldn't let control me anymore. Fine, he spat. But don't think you're safe. You'll see. You'll regret this. I could feel the weight of his threat, but I didn't flinch. The old me would have cowered, would have tried to fix things, to make it right, but not anymore. I had nothing to fear. Jason and Rachel could fight all they wanted, but I had learned the hard way that the only person I needed to protect was myself. I walked away from him, my heart pounding. This was the moment everything changed. I had broken free from their hold on me, and there was no going back. But as much as I wanted to believe I was done with them, I knew in my gut that they wouldn't give up so easily. They never had. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something bigger than just Jason and Rachel. But I didn't know what it was yet. I couldn't see the future, but I could feel the tension building. It was like the calm before a storm, and I was ready for whatever came next. The next few days were a whirlwind. I couldn't escape the feeling of being on edge, like I was waiting for something terrible to happen. Jason and Rachel hadn't gone away, and I knew that no matter how hard I tried to keep my distance, they would find a way to get under my skin again. They couldn't just accept that it was over. They were desperate, and desperation made people dangerous. It didn't take long for them to make their next move. I got a call one afternoon from the school office. My heart dropped when I saw the caller ID. It was Rachel's mother. What could she possibly want? I braced myself before answering. Samantha, she began, her voice a mixture of exhaustion and disbelief. We need to talk. Rachel's in a terrible state. She says you've cut her off, and she's threatening to do something drastic. I know you don't owe her anything, but I'm begging you, don't leave her like this. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the anger that immediately surged within me. I didn't do anything to her. She did this to herself. I've tried to help her, but she keeps pushing me away. And now, she wants to guilt trip me into saving her? Rachel's mother was silent for a moment, the weight of the situation hanging heavy between us. Please, Samantha. She's in pain, and I know you're the only one who can help. She's too proud to admit it, but she's at the end of her rope. I couldn't help the bitterness that bubbled up. She's at the end of her rope because she's made every wrong decision she could. She could have gone to college. She could have had a future, but she threw it all away for a man who doesn't even care about her. Rachel's mother's voice cracked. She was always so bright, so full of promise. And then, everything changed. I couldn't keep talking to her. My patience had worn thin. I'm sorry, but I can't keep cleaning up her mess. She's made her bed. Let her lie in it. I hung up, my hands shaking with anger. I had already given so much to Rachel, tried to steer her in the right direction, but she hadn't wanted help. She had wanted control. And now, it was too late. There was nothing left for her to take from me. That evening, I couldn't shake the feeling that Jason was planning something. He had been so quiet, so reserved, as if he were biding his time. I tried to tell myself I was just paranoid, but my gut told me something was coming. Something I wasn't prepared for. I wasn't wrong. The next morning, Jason showed up at my doorstep, his face a mixture of desperation and defiance. Samantha, we need to talk. It's about Sophie. I didn't let him finish. What do you want from me now? Haven't I given you everything? I know you've cut me off, he continued, ignoring my interruption. But you can't just leave Sophie like this. She's your responsibility too. You can't just walk away from her. The words hit me harder than I expected. Sophie, my daughter. I had promised myself I would protect her, and now Jason was using her as leverage against me. I hated him for it. You want me to feel guilty, don't you? You think I'm going to give you money again because you're using Sophie as some kind of pawn? Jason's eyes flashed with something dangerous. I'm not asking for your money. I'm asking for you to care. Sophie needs you. She doesn't need you to abandon her like everyone else has. I stared at him, fury rising in my chest. I care about Sophie, but she's not my daughter anymore. She chose you, Jason. She's been your responsibility for years. That's not true. He shot back. She doesn't understand what's going on. She's just a kid. I couldn't take it anymore. She's not a kid, Jason. She's a teenager now. She has to face the consequences of her actions just like everyone else. You can't keep using her to manipulate me. Jason stepped forward, his voice low and threatening. If you don't do something, if you don't help her, I'll make sure you regret it. You'll never see Sophie again. I stood my ground. You think you can scare me? You're nothing to me anymore. For a moment, we just stood there, the tension crackling between us. Jason's jaw clenched, but I could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He was losing control, and he knew it. He wasn't the man he used to be, and he certainly wasn't the man I had once loved. Fine, he spat, turning away. But don't say I didn't warn you. I watched him walk away, my heart pounding. The stakes were higher than ever now. Jason was trying to manipulate me, trying to control me with threats and guilt, but I wasn't going to let him. I had learned my lesson in the worst possible way. There was no going back. That night, as I lay in bed, my mind raced. I couldn't let them win. I couldn't let Jason and Rachel take what little power I had left. I had to be smarter. I had to outplay them. The next morning, I called my parents. I couldn't let them stay in the dark anymore. They had always been my rock, my foundation, and I wasn't going to let Jason and Rachel tear us apart again. Mom, Dad, I said, my voice tight. I need you to do something for me. Cut off all contact with Jason and Rachel. Don't give them a cent. Don't talk to them. There was silence on the other end, and I knew they were shocked. But they didn't argue. We'll do it, my father finally said. But you have to be careful, Samantha. These people will stop at nothing to get what they want. I know, I said, my voice hard. But this time, I'm not backing down. And just like that, I knew I had taken the first real step toward my freedom. No more manipulation. No more guilt. Jason and Rachel could try all they wanted, but they would never break me again. The following days felt like a slow-burning fuse, the kind that inches closer to an inevitable explosion. Jason and Rachel weren't going to let go that easily. I could feel the storm brewing, their desperation palpable. But this time, I wasn't going to be the passive bystander, the naive woman who had trusted the wrong people. I was going to be the one holding the match. And this time, I would burn their illusions to the ground. School became the battleground. I could see Rachel lurking in the hallways, her gaze following me like a shadow, but I kept my distance. The whispers about her were growing louder. No one pitied her anymore. In fact, people were beginning to see her for what she really was, a girl who had made bad choices and was now trying to use others to fix her mistakes. It was satisfying, in a way. She was no longer the untouchable image of a perfect student. She was just a girl in trouble, like everyone else who'd made bad decisions in life. But it was Jason who kept haunting me. He wasn't just upset, he was spiraling. Every encounter with him felt like a silent war, with him trying to chip away at the wall I'd built between us. The arrogance was gone from his voice, replaced by desperation. He didn't like being powerless. It was a side of him I hadn't seen before. One afternoon, I found him waiting outside my classroom. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides. His eyes looked wild, as if he were teetering on the edge of something dangerous. The old Samantha might have faltered, might have softened at the sight of him, but not now. I was no longer the woman who loved him. I was someone else entirely. Why are you doing this? He demanded as I walked past him, refusing to even acknowledge his presence. You think you're better than me now? You think you can just discard me like I'm nothing? I stopped in my tracks, the urge to walk away barely contained. You're right, I said, turning to face him. You are nothing to me now. Jason's face twisted with anger, the fury in his eyes flickering to something darker. You're not going to get away with this, Samantha. You think you can just shut me out? You owe me. We've been through too much for you to just act like I don't exist. I don't owe you anything, Jason. I shot back, my voice steady but cold. You don't get to control me anymore. Not now, not ever again. His nostrils flared, and I could see the pain in his eyes. But there was something else there too, something that made him dangerous. I know who you are, Samantha. I know your weaknesses. I know how to hurt you. Don't push me. I could feel the old fear creep into my bones, but I shoved it down. Go ahead, Jason. Try me. For a moment, we just stood there, staring at each other. His eyes were filled with rage, but also something else, something raw. He wasn't the man I once knew. This man was broken, and for some reason, that broke me too. But I couldn't let it show. Not now, not ever again. I'm done with you, I said firmly, turning my back on him. You made your choices. Now live with them. As I walked away, I could hear Jason's footsteps behind me, but I didn't turn around. I had to believe that this was the end. The last time I would ever look back. The days that followed felt strange. The air was heavy with anticipation, like something big was about to happen. Jason and Rachel kept trying to reach me, sending messages, showing up at school, trying to guilt trip me into helping them again. But I kept my distance. The more they pushed, the more I pulled away. I had to stay strong. I had to stay focused. And then, the unexpected happened. One afternoon, I was called to the principal's office. It was the last place I wanted to be, especially after everything that had happened with Rachel and Jason. When I entered the office, I was met by a cold, stern-faced woman I didn't recognize. She introduced herself as a private investigator. I've been hired to look into a situation involving 2 students here, Rachel and Jason. There's some information I believe you might want to know, she said, her tone businesslike. My heart sank. What could they possibly be involved in now? The investigator handed me a folder. I opened it slowly, not knowing what to expect. Inside were photographs, documents, and notes, everything that Jason and Rachel had been up to behind the scenes. And it wasn't just about money. It was about something much darker. They had been forging documents, manipulating people, and even trying to scam my family out of their wealth by using their knowledge of the will I had signed. I believe you'll want to take a look at this, the investigator said, watching me carefully as I processed the information. My stomach turned. I had been right. They weren't just after money. They were after everything. They had been planning this all along. And now, they had crossed a line they couldn't come back from. I took a deep breath, pushing the overwhelming emotions down. Thank you, I said, my voice steady. I'll take care of it. As I left the office, the reality of the situation began to sink in. They hadn't just betrayed me, they had betrayed themselves. They had gone so far that there was no turning back. I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of satisfaction, but at the same time, the weight of it all hit me. I had been right about them, but this was more than just a betrayal. This was a warning that the people closest to you could be the most dangerous. Later that night, as I sat alone in my room, I couldn't shake the feeling that Jason and Rachel were still out there, still plotting. But I wasn't going to wait for them to make their move. I was going to be the one to end this once and for all. I would take control of my life, my future, and I would make sure they could never hurt me again. But there was one final piece of the puzzle. Sophie. She was the one who had been caught in the middle of all of this. She had been raised by Rachel and Jason, but in her heart, she knew the truth. She just didn't want to admit it. Not yet. The next day, I decided to confront Sophie. I found her sitting alone in the courtyard, her eyes vacant as she stared off into the distance. Sophie, I called softly, sitting beside her. She looked up, her eyes filled with confusion and something else, pain. You don't have to do this, I said gently. You don't have to be a part of their mess. Sophie's lips trembled. But they're my family. No, Sophie, they're not. You deserve more than this. You deserve a chance at a real future. Sophie didn't answer, but I could see the battle waging inside her. She wanted to believe in her parents. She wanted to believe in the family they had promised her. But deep down, she knew what I was saying was true. They had never cared about her, not in the way she deserved. I'll help you, Sophie, I said softly. But you have to let go of them. She looked at me, her eyes filled with fear and hope, a mixture that broke my heart. I don't know if I can. You don't have to do it alone, I said, reaching out to take her hand. You're not alone anymore. The next few days were a blur, but something in Sophie changed. It wasn't dramatic, but it was enough to show that she was starting to see things more clearly. I could feel the tension shifting in her. She was confused, torn between the life she had known and the truth that was unfolding in front of her. She was finally beginning to understand that Jason and Rachel were not the people she needed to cling to. They were toxic, and they had poisoned everything around her. But Sophie wasn't ready to fully let go, not yet. I could see it in her eyes every time I tried to help, every time I reached out to her. She was afraid of the unknown, afraid of losing what little she had left. I knew this wasn't going to be easy, but I had to be patient. I had to give her time to process, time to decide what she really wanted. Jason, on the other hand, wasn't wasting any time. He kept showing up, lurking in the background like a shadow, waiting for an opportunity to strike. But I wasn't worried. I knew he was desperate, and desperation made people reckless. He had already shown his cards, and now it was only a matter of time before he would reveal himself for the broken man he had become. The confrontation with the investigator had set everything in motion. The evidence was clear. Rachel and Jason had crossed a line they couldn't come back from. They had been forging documents, manipulating situations, and trying to twist the truth to suit their own selfish needs. They had done everything to try to ruin me, and now it was my turn to take control of the situation. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. They couldn't be allowed to keep getting away with what they'd done. I spent the next few days gathering everything, the evidence, the witnesses, the records. I was meticulous. If they thought they could ruin my life, they were sorely mistaken. I wasn't going to let them destroy me again, not in this life. And when the time came, I would make sure they paid for everything. Then, it happened. I got a call from the lawyer. My heart skipped a beat as I listened to the details. Jason had gone behind my back and was trying to contest the will I had signed, just like in my past life. But this time, I was ready. I had the evidence. I had everything I needed to make sure Jason would never see another cent of my family's wealth. I hung up the phone and let out a slow breath. I was calm, but deep down, a fire was building inside me. This wasn't just about money. It was about everything he had taken from me. The trust, the love, the years I had wasted believing in him. I wasn't going to let him get away with it again. I picked up the phone and called my parents. "It's time," I said, my voice firm. "I'm going to handle this once and for all. I need your support, but I need you to stay out of it. This is my fight now." They didn't hesitate. "We'll be right behind you, Samantha. We trust you." Their words were like a balm, soothing the anger that had been building up inside me for years. This was it. This was my chance to finally break free of the chains that had bound me for so long. The next day, I walked into the courtroom with my head held high. Jason and Rachel were sitting across from me, their eyes filled with defiance, but there was a flicker of fear in them too. They knew they were losing. The lawyer started with the evidence I had gathered: bank statements, forged documents, testimonies from people who had witnessed their actions. Piece by piece, the truth came to light, and with every new revelation, the weight on my chest lightened. This was the justice I had been fighting for, and it felt damn good. Jason tried to defend himself, his voice shaky but still full of that same arrogance. "You don't know what you're doing, Samantha. You think you're better than me? You think you can just take everything from me and leave me with nothing?" I didn't flinch. "I'm not taking anything from you. You never had it. You never earned it. Everything you've had, you've stolen. And now it's over." The look in his eyes was priceless. For the first time, I saw the panic behind the mask. He was losing control, and I was taking everything back. Rachel was quieter than usual, sitting beside him with her head bowed. I couldn't help but feel a flicker of something for her, a fleeting moment of sympathy. She had been manipulated just as much as I had, but the moment passed quickly. She had made her choices. The hearing went on for hours, but in the end, there was no contest. The will was upheld. Jason and Rachel were left with nothing, and I was free. My family's wealth was protected, and the lies they had built their lives on crumbled beneath them. But as I walked out of the courtroom, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. I had won, yes, but it didn't feel like the victory I had imagined. It felt empty. For all the power I had gained, there was still a part of me that wondered if I had lost something too. Later that evening, I found myself back at the house, sitting alone in the quiet. The world had shifted, and yet I still felt unsettled. The victory had come at a cost. I had changed, yes, but at what price? I hadn't seen Sophie since the hearing. She had kept her distance, but I knew she was watching, waiting. I had given her space, but I knew I couldn't wait forever. I couldn't let her become like Rachel. I couldn't let her follow in their footsteps. I had to break the cycle, and for that, I needed to reach her. I picked up the phone and called her. The line rang, and when she picked up, her voice was soft and certain. "Sophie," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "It's time. Come home. You don't have to do this alone." There was a long silence before she answered. "I don't know if I can." I felt a pang of sadness, but I didn't back down. "You don't have to be like them, Sophie. You can. Choose a different path. I'm here for you, always." And in that moment, I knew that this battle, this war, wasn't just about money or power. It was about something deeper. It was about breaking the cycle, about finding redemption and healing. For all of us, the next few weeks passed in a haze of relief, but it wasn't the peace I had expected. Yes, the court ruling had been in my favor, and Jason and Rachel were left scrambling with nothing but the bitter consequences of their own actions. But it wasn't enough. I had won the battle, but the war within myself felt far from over. Sophie, after the trial, seemed more distant than ever. The connection I thought we had built began to erode, replaced by a deep, unsettling silence. She was struggling, and I knew it. I could see it in her eyes, the confusion, the fear of being abandoned. She had been raised by Rachel and Jason, in a world where loyalty meant putting others before yourself, even if they didn't deserve it. And now, I was asking her to choose a new path, a path without them. It was harder than I expected. I tried, reaching out to her, but every time I got close, she pulled away. She wasn't ready, not yet, and that was fine. I told myself she needed time to understand what was happening, time to process the betrayal and the pain. But Jason wasn't about to give up. He had disappeared for a while after the court ruling, but I could feel him lurking in the background, waiting for the right moment to strike. He didn't know how to let go. He couldn't stand the fact that he had lost everything. The arrogance that had once been his greatest asset had now become his greatest weakness. He had no plan, no backup, just desperation. One evening, a familiar voice echoed through my phone, Jason's. My heart skipped a beat as I answered, already bracing myself for whatever nonsense he was about to throw at me. "Samantha," he said, his voice thick with something I couldn't quite place. "We need to talk. I'm done playing games. You're making a huge mistake." I rolled my eyes. "What do you want, Jason? Another chance to manipulate me? Because that's not going to happen." "Look, I'm not here to beg," he said, but there was a strange urgency in his tone that made me pause. "I'm trying to help you. I know you think I'm just some selfish bastard, but this isn't about me anymore. It's about Sophie." I felt a flicker of something, a pang of concern. "What about Sophie?" "I'm telling you," he continued, his voice low, almost pleading. "You don't know what you're dealing with. She's in danger. If you don't help her now, it's all going to fall apart. She'll end up just like Rachel, just like me." His words hit me harder than I cared to admit. I didn't want to believe him, but there was something in his tone that made me stop and think. Was Sophie truly at risk? Had she already begun down the path I had worked so hard to pull her from? I pushed the thought aside. "Don't try to guilt trip me, Jason. I've seen this act before. If you cared so much about Sophie, why don't you take responsibility for your own actions instead of using her as a pawn in your game?" He fell silent for a moment, and I could almost feel the weight of his regret pressing down on the call. But then, with a shaky breath, he spoke again. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness, Samantha. I'm asking for your help. For Sophie's sake, please." I stared at the phone for a long moment, unsure of what to do. I had no intention of ever letting Jason back into my life. But the idea of Sophie, my adopted daughter, slipping further into the same destructive patterns that had claimed Rachel's life was too much to ignore. "Fine," I said, my voice tight with controlled emotion. "I'll help Sophie, but this is the last time you manipulate me into anything." Jason's sigh of relief was audible. "Thank you," he whispered. "I knew you'd come through." I ended the call, but the unease lingered. I wasn't sure if I had made the right decision. Helping Sophie was one thing, but letting Jason back into my life, even for a moment, felt like a betrayal to everything I had fought for. The next day, I found Sophie alone at school. Her eyes were hollow, distant, nothing like the bright girl I had hope to save. It was heartbreaking to see her this way. I could see the pain in her, but I could also see something else, a flicker of rebellion, a refusal to accept the life Jason and Rachel had given her. Sophie, I said gently, sitting beside her, we need to talk. She didn't look at me. Her gaze stayed fixed on the ground, and for a moment, I thought she might walk away. But then, after a long pause, she spoke in a voice so quiet it was barely audible. I don't know what to do anymore, she whispered. I don't know who to trust. Jason says you're the only one who can save me, but I don't know if I can trust you either. I reached out, placing my hand on her arm. Sophie, I know this is hard. I know you're confused, but you can't keep living in their shadow. You're not like them. You have a choice. You can be different. You can have a life that isn't shaped by their mistakes. She pulled her arm back, a look of anger flashing across her face. I'm not a child anymore, Samantha. I don't need you telling me what to do. I've been living with Rachel and Jason my whole life. I don't know how to be anyone else. Her words stung, but they also fueled something inside me, a fierce determination to show her the truth. I don't want to control you, Sophie, I said firmly. I just want to give you a chance. You don't have to keep following their path. You don't have to be like them. You have the power to choose who you want to be. She met my gaze then, her eyes searching mine for something. Maybe for sincerity. Maybe for hope. I didn't know if I could give her that, but I was willing to try. Sophie finally stood up, her shoulders slumped as if the weight of the world was on her. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to change. I stood as well, placing a hand on her shoulder. I'll be here to help you, Sophie, but only if you want it. This is your fight too. She nodded slowly, the uncertainty still in her eyes. But something had shifted. She wasn't ready to let go of her past just yet, but I could see the crack in the wall she had built around herself. And that was enough for me to know I hadn't given up on her completely. As I watched her walk away, I felt the weight of what was to come. I wasn't just fighting Jason or Rachel anymore. I was fighting for Sophie's future. And no matter how much she resisted, I wasn't going to stop until I saw her make a choice. A choice to stand on her own, to be someone who didn't let her past define her. The days after my conversation with Sophie felt like they were stretching on forever, each one filled with tension and uncertainty. She was caught in a storm of emotions, confusion, fear, anger, and I could see the weight of it all in her eyes. She wanted to trust me, but she also wanted to protect what little sense of family she had left. It broke my heart, but I knew this was the hardest part. This was the point of no return. I kept my distance, giving her space to figure things out on her own. But every time I saw her, I could feel that little spark of hope still burning in her. I couldn't abandon her, no matter how many times she pulled away. She needed me, even if she didn't want to admit it yet. She needed to know that someone, anyone, cared enough to help her find her way out of the mess Jason and Rachel had dragged her into. Jason, however, didn't make things easier. He had started showing up more frequently, trying to get under my skin with his subtle threats and manipulations. But I didn't flinch. I knew his game by now. He was desperate, and that desperation was clouding his judgment. Every time he tried to push me into a corner, I pushed back harder. One evening, he cornered me outside the house. I could see the anger in his eyes, but there was something else there too, something darker, something that reminded me of the man I had once loved before he destroyed everything. You think you've won, don't you? He spat, stepping closer. You think that because you've got the money, the power, that you're untouchable. But I've still got control, Samantha. You can't just take everything from me and expect me to roll over. I stood my ground, my posture straight, unyielding. I'm not trying to take anything from you, Jason. I'm just taking back what was always mine. You had your chance. You squandered it. His eyes flickered with rage, but then there was a moment, just a brief one, when something almost like vulnerability passed over his face. I realized then that Jason wasn't just angry. He was terrified. Terrified of losing everything, of being left with nothing. You're making a mistake, he muttered, almost to himself. You'll regret this, Samantha. You're just like everyone else. You'll leave me, and then you'll be alone. You won't have anyone. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his words, but I refused to show him any weakness. I don't need anyone, Jason. Not you. Not Rachel. I've spent my whole life being manipulated by the people I trusted, but I'm done. I'm not going to let you use me anymore. The look in his eyes turned cold. He didn't speak again. Instead, he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing in the still night air. But as I watched him go, a feeling of unease crept over me. Was this really over? Could Jason be that easily defeated? I couldn't afford to let my guard down. Not yet. The next day, I got a call. It was from Sophie. She didn't say much at first, just a hesitant greeting before the silence stretched. Between us, are you okay? I asked, trying to mask the worry in my voice. I don't know, she said quietly. I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore. I took a deep breath. You don't have to do anything alone, Sophie. You've got choices now. You can choose who you want to be. You don't have to follow in their footsteps. I don't know how to change, she whispered. I don't know how to stop being like them. You already have, Sophie, I replied, my voice soft but firm. The fact that you're asking for help is proof that you're not the same person anymore. You've already taken the first step. There was a long pause, and I could hear her breathing through the phone, her uncertainty still heavy in the air. But then she spoke again, her voice just a little stronger. I'll try, she said quietly. I'll try to be different. I smiled to myself, relief flooding through me. It wasn't much, but it was a start, a sign that Sophie was ready to take control of her own life. She wasn't there yet, but she was moving in the right direction, and that was all I could ask for. The next few weeks were difficult, but I could feel things shifting. Sophie came around more often, and while she was still struggling, she was starting to open up to me in ways she hadn't before. It wasn't easy. Every time she looked at me, I could see the old wounds she carried, the pain of growing up with Rachel and Jason, the confusion about who she was and where she belonged. But she was trying, and that was enough for me. And then, one day, something unexpected happened. I was at the office when I received a call from my lawyer. My heart sank as he told me that Rachel was trying to contest the will again. This time, it was different. She had a new angle, a new claim that could potentially nullify everything I had worked for. The rage that built inside me was familiar, but it didn't scare me anymore. It only fueled me. I had fought for this life, for my family, and I wasn't going to let Rachel or Jason ruin it all over again. Not this time. I had learned the hard way that some people don't learn from their mistakes. Some people never stop fighting for what they think is theirs, even when they don't deserve it. And Rachel, with her cold manipulation and lies, was one of those people. But I was stronger now. I wasn't afraid to face her. I had everything I needed to destroy her claim, to make sure she couldn't hurt me or anyone else again. I would fight this battle with everything I had, and I wouldn't back down. I called my lawyer and told him to prepare for the fight of a lifetime. This was it, the final showdown, and I was ready. The next few days felt like a whirlwind. The pressure of the legal battle with Rachel weighed heavily on me, but I refused to let it consume me. This time I was prepared. My lawyer and I had gathered all the necessary evidence to ensure that Rachel's claim would never see the light of day. I wasn't going to let her or anyone else take what rightfully belonged to me, to my family. Every moment felt like a countdown. As the trial loomed closer, the anticipation gnawed at me, but I kept my focus. I wasn't just fighting for the wealth or the property. No, this was bigger than that. This was about finally putting an end to the cycle of betrayal and manipulation that had defined my life for far too long. Jason and Rachel had taken so much from me already: my trust, my love, my time, and I wasn't going to let them take anything else. Sophie was still struggling, torn between the past and the future. She would come to the office sometimes, sit quietly in the corner, watching me as I worked. I could see the battle in her eyes, the desire to break free from the hold of Rachel and Jason, but the fear of the unknown, of standing on her own. I wanted to reach out to her, to tell her that I would always be there for her, no matter what. But I knew she had to find her own way. One evening, as I was finishing up a late meeting, Sophie came to see me. Her face was tense, her eyes wide with uncertainty. She looked almost like a stranger, a girl caught between two worlds. I'm scared, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can do this. What if I make the wrong choice? What if I end up just like them? I put down my papers and stood up, walking over to her. You're already making the right choice, Sophie. The fact that you're here, asking for help, is proof of that. You've already decided you don't want to follow their path, and that's what matters. She shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. But I've been living with them my whole life. How do I just let that go? You don't have to forget the past, Sophie. You just have to choose to live differently. And you're not alone in this. I'm here. Every step of the way. I'll help you. But you have to trust me. You have to trust yourself." For a moment, she said nothing. Then, with a shaky breath, she nodded. "I'll try," she whispered. It wasn't much, but it was everything. It was the first time I saw hope in her eyes. The first time I saw that she was starting to believe that she could be more than the person Rachel and Jason had tried to shape her into. The trial came the next week, and everything moved quickly after that. The courtroom was tense, filled with the weight of the past and the fear of what was to come. Rachel sat across from me, her eyes cold, her face set in a mask of anger and defiance. She was determined to make me pay for everything, for the loss of the life she thought she was entitled to. But I wasn't afraid. This time, I was in control. My lawyer presented the evidence with precision, tearing down Rachel's claims one by one. The forged documents, the manipulations, the lies, it all came to light. And with every word, Rachel's confidence shattered. She tried to fight back, but it was too late. The truth was already out. The weight of her lies was too much to bear. Jason wasn't there, and I could see that it hurt her. She was alone in this fight, and the realization that no one was left to back her up seemed to break something inside her. I didn't feel sorry for her. I couldn't. She had made her choices, and now she had to face the consequences. The judge's ruling came swiftly. The will was upheld. Rachel's claims were dismissed. Everything that had once belonged to me, everything I had worked for, was mine again. As I walked out of the courtroom, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I had won, but at what cost? I had fought for everything, my life, my family, my future, but I still felt like I was carrying a weight that wouldn't lift. But then, as I walked through the door of the office, I saw Sophie sitting at my desk, waiting for me. She looked up, her eyes uncertain, but hopeful. She had made her choice, and for the first time, I saw the girl I had been trying to save, the girl who was ready to fight for herself. I smiled at her, feeling something shift within me. "Are you ready to start over?" I asked. Sophie's lips trembled, and for a moment, I thought she might say no, but then, with a deep breath, she nodded. "Yeah, I think I'm ready." And in that moment, I realized something. The battle hadn't just been about taking back my life from Rachel and Jason. It had been about helping Sophie find hers, helping her understand that she didn't have to be defined by the people who had tried to control her. She had a choice, and I would be there to help her every step of the way. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about redemption, about healing, and about building something new, something better. We were both standing at the beginning of something new together. And this time, I wasn't going to let anything take it away.